I don't try to do anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, I could seriously see why Shorty brought Mr. Kaiser up here. Because this is one special spot. It was a secret spot for a number of years, but now everybody knows about it. Lane Clough, the superintendent at Preserve and Shorty's, was the one that built this. He was my assistant at the time. So this old rickety fence is, old. Probably should be replaced. I was on my phone this morning and a video came up and it was some guys teeing off 14. And I have a handicapped brother that lives with me. And I was like, hey, I want you to see this video. He goes, hey, that's pretty cool. I said, that's one of the holes I take care of. And he goes, no way. He goes, yeah. It's hard to believe that even though, you know, I had such a small part in this, that it's going to be here for so long. Hopefully I could leave it for the next superintendent to take care of and love it as much as I do.
My name is Ken Nice, and I'm the managing director of Bandon Dunes. Mr. Kaiser always referred to himself as the land steward of Bandon Dunes, but I guess I would be right now the deputy land steward of Bandon Dunes. My impressions of the property when I first saw it, the footprint of the entire property was far more rugged and native and, you know, raw, I guess. And there's kind of this unveiling when we came down Randolph Road, which is kind of one of the primary entrances to the resort. There's just a gravel road with a lot of big conifers, you know, Doug firs. And then all of a sudden there's this big ocean reveal. And I was pretty blown away by the scale of the golf course, the ocean views. It's really a special property with a lot of microclimates to it. So there's really a distinct transition from dunescape to the meadow to basically an established old growth forest and a lot of really spectacular coastal lakes as well that are kind of throughout and some streams. So there's kind of almost a whole watershed in this property as well as forest land and dune land. It's really quite a spectacular, diverse property. The old forest areas, we have like great native vegetation. Huckleberries, native rhododendrons, manzanita, madrone. We call them weeds of the woods, but we landscape with a lot of our native plants just because they're so attractive. So it's not just the old growth, Doug firs, spruce, it's also the undergrowth and plants that we have here that kind of make, I think, our forested areas so special. Then kind of the intermediate zone between the forest and the dunes, we have a lot of low-growing plants. You know, you've got kinnikinnick and kind of more drier land kind of meadow plants. Along with other really cool wildflowers that also pop up in these meadows, you have native irises, camas, which was one of the main staples for the Coquel tribe here, the Coquel people. And then you move really into the shifty dune zone, the big dramatic dunes, which right now kind of encompass beach grass, a lot of Scotch broom, a lot of that kind of thing. But we are actually starting to establish more of the original native dune plants by managing some of the beach grass that was introduced in the 50s. In doing so, we're able to create dune plants that were endangered. Primarily one of them is the silvery phacelia. We did get notified by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife that we had established the largest population of that plant on the West Coast. When you build a golf course, now you've kind of got a managed landscape that you can start doing some of those things that in other organizations or other property owners don't have the bandwidth to, not only manage the exotic plants that you don't want, but also to put the energy into then also establishing the new plants. So a golf course is actually a perfect environment once you've established the actual playing surfaces, then on the peripherals to start edging out and creating more of that native vegetation. And that was also very important to Mr. Kaiser, that we are always good stewards to the land and that we're sensitive to how we manage it. I was fortunate enough to be hired in March of '99 as the assistant superintendent at Bandon Dunes. More or less the construction had been completed and the growing was almost done. So it was pretty much a completed Bandon Dunes when I got here. What struck me different wasn't so much that it was fescue colonial bent fairways, but it was fescue colonial bent greens. And that was kind of a departure from anything in the Northwest that we'd seen up to that point. Most golf courses in the Northwest start off with bent grass and then they transition to poa annua. It's just the natural progression of things. So managing fescue and colonial bent on greens was definitely a different learning curve. Part of that learning curve was more of a hands-off approach. It's a turf grass composition that requires less inputs, higher height of cut, less surface disturbance, all those things kind of on the opposite end of the POA spectrum. We more or less took the same mixture from Bandon Dunes, which was a mixture of fescue and colonial bent grass. And we applied that at Pacific Dunes. Since it was a successful mix, we decided to go that route. Establishing the turf at Bandon Trails wasn't anything real different from Bandon or Pacific, to be quite honest. The one thing we did change, and we have changed some of the composition of the starting turf grass blend, colonial bent percentage dropped by about 15%. So it was really a 94% fescue, 6% colonial, which up to that point was an 80-20. There were some characteristics with the colonial that create a little more inconsistency, some soft spots, maybe some bumpiness that you wouldn't have with fescue. We, over time, started to figure out that we liked more of the pure fescue surface versus the fescue colonial. The ground game is just a little bit purer, firmer, truer. So once we started to see kind of how good that turf grass looked with the lesser percentage of colonial trails, then we kind of took that to Old Mac and Sheep Ranch, which are 100% fescue. What we use here is basically primarily Chewings fescue and slender creeping red. And the fertility requirements on fescue are just a lot less than like ryegrass or any of these other, fine turf grasses. The big thing with fescue is you have to have the discipline to keep hands off. It's really quite simple. There's nothing overly complicated. Don't overfeed it, don't overwater it, and don't disturb it too much, and let it kind of do its thing. It establishes slowly, but once it's established, it's a very stable, firm surface that you can kind of count on day in and day out. The thing that I think we have established at Old Mac, very much a bias, but I think it's the purest links surface and the purest links course we have at the resort. In that I think it has more of the elements of St. Andrews than probably any of the others. It's the perfect grass for links golf.
It's like, forgot all about it. I know, when you work with guys on a tight-knit crew like this, and our crew's pretty good size. I mean, I have 18. You get to know them. I mean, they become part of your family, your work family, and it's like some of the memories you get. I mean, After you guys left yesterday, I picked up that construction photo and looked at it, and there was like me, Kid Knights, Frank, Martin, and Marty Greer were the only ones that were still here, you know, that weren't part of the contractors. Like Tony Russell he still lurks around and still does stuff for us, but there's only just a few of us. I'm the only one that's still on trails. So yeah, so I appreciate that you guys came in and like you sparked some memories that I really, kind of forgot. It's like, wow.
The people of the turf operation at Bandon Dunes, we have a staff of about 130 total. That's superintendents, assistants, spray tech, irrigation tech, and then greenkeepers, along with our mechanic staff. I will say it's the best part of the job is the people.
I came to Bandon Dunes in 2008. The first day that I came in, I met up with Ken Nice. We went to Old Mac first because it was under construction. I'd never really seen anything like that. So I knew this was someplace that I really wanted to try and make it work. And fortunately, we were able to make it work. I was at Old Mac for 5.5 years, and then they moved me to Bandon Dunes. And then when Ken Nice was offered the job last year to move up to being managing director of the resort, that opened up this office, and I was just fortunate enough to be chosen for it. The morning routine for me at this time, I do a lot of administrative stuff at the beginning, try to answer as many emails. There's a lot more of that in this chair than there was before. And then my main goal that I try to do is to get to every course, maybe not every course in a given day, but try to get to, say, Bandon and Pacific and putt on as many greens as I like to putt on these greens, because that's the only way to really, if someone's complaining or if someone's thrilled, you got to have an idea of what their feelings are coming from. And then I'll touch base with all the superintendents as much as I possibly can, see if everything's going okay. It is a lot of ground to cover. All the superintendents are great, so that's a big plus that I've got really good people.
My name is Aaron Scott Huntley. Everybody knows me as Scott.
My name is Eric Langford.
My name is Marcus Lakey.
My name is Brittany Wolstein, and I am a greenskeeper assistant superintendent of Pacific Dunes Agronomy.
I'm the superintendent at Bandon Dunes.
I'm a superintendent on the Old McDonald course.
I've been a superintendent at Bandon Trails for, since 2007-ish. I was a displaced mill worker back in 1998.
I am originally from here. I started working here when I was 15 years old. I had to get a ride to work from my dad, and I was a furniture mover. Try to spice that up, but there's no way to do it.
Started as an intern in 2016, just graduated from Iowa State University.
I actually moved here from Idaho. Bandon Dunes, I never even heard of it at all.
And I had never heard of Bandon Dunes. And so I knew I wanted to come to Oregon. I got on Google Maps and just started searching on the coast and stumbled upon this, and I was like, I have to go there.
I absolutely had no interest in golf. The most I ever actually even did was probably swing golf clubs at a terrain. And honestly, I didn't never think I was gonna be like where I am today, 100%.
I didn't really know a lot about golf at that time, and then I started working at the practice center after that. Then I really got into it and knew I wanted to be outside, and so started on the maintenance crew at Bandon Dunes course in 2004 and never really looked back.
Yeah, at first I thought it was just going to be one of those places that just comes and goes, and then once I seen what they were doing, I figured that this place was going to be here for a while.
My very first time here on property, my very first impression was, wow, how amazing this place is. It was amazing. It was kind of a big, big world for me to come out here just to see it for the first time, so it was huge.
The property itself, the more you get out there and the more you explore it, the more you find out that it's special. I mean, there's places on this property that's untouched and it's still a special place.
Links golf is just beautiful. You know, it's my cup of tea.
To this day, I love it. This job, you're constantly learning, and that's what I like to do.
Running a turf operation of this size, how we coordinate it isn't as complicated as you think. We're relatively simple people, and we meet every Thursday at 10 o'clock, the entire agronomy leadership team, and we map out the next week together. And believe me, a 20-minute meeting is a long meeting for these guys. But what it does is it coordinates us for the next week so that everybody knows what everybody else is doing, what equipment's going to which course, who's fertilizing, who's top dressing, who's verticutting. That 15 to 20 minute meeting saves a lot of grief for the following week. Every crew is very different. They all have their own identity, and each superintendent probably runs their staff and their team a little different than the others. I think that also is what makes us special, is that we have the human dynamic, and it allows for innovation and creative thinking.
Well, I think one of the best things about this resort and what makes it so unique is all the courses that are here, even the par threes, but the 5 18-hole courses that are here are all very different.
It's crazy how neat it is, and you could go from one zone or microclimate to another within 2 minutes. I mean, you could go from 80 degrees on the east side of the spine dune at Trails, come over and you're in the wind in the 60-degree weather. At Trails, you start off in the sand. It's dry sand, dry area, and the wind, and then you go into the meadow area, and it's usually a little bit calmer and a little bit moisture in that area, and we've really got to watch what we do irrigation-wise there for the native plant life. And then you get over to the east side, and it's usually pretty damp. It's pretty wet out there. Sometimes we don't water at all on the east side of the course, and we're dumping water on the west side. So I like Trails for all that, for the topography, for the grass types, for everything that I mentioned, plus I'm constantly learning out there.
If I were to describe Bandon Dunes, I would say that it's got more of a sense of a manicured look and somewhat more subtle shaping to it. Part of the art form of what we do is making this place look untouched, but there's a lot of work that goes into that.
What is unique about Old Mac?
I would definitely say the openness, very linksy feeling. It's just, once you get over the hill on 3, it's wide open. You can see everything that's in front of you. They're all firm out here, but the wind can really get going on Old Mac more than some of the others, especially in the afternoons. You combine that with the severe undulations that Old Mac is kind of known for. A lot more bounces and kicks that people aren't really expecting. But I think it adds to the beauty of what Old Mac is, and golf in general. You never really know what a shot's gonna do. I would say the advantages of having a large team like we have here at Bandon is there's a lot of people that have lots of experience. Most of the supers have been here for a long time. They've been through transitions, and they've been through pretty much anything that we might face out here. So it's really cool to have that network to kind of lean on and kind of pick some brains, that you have someone that's in a very similar situation that you can count on.
Right up as much as possible.
Okay. All right, Doug Richard is out. Kenneth.
Bandon still has a propagator, the transmission needs to be rebuilt. Trails has a 3320 that the hydraulic pump needs resealed. There's a shared bird drain that the drain handles need replaced, just needs to be up. And then there's a Dakota 410 that's as well. So that's it.
Okay. So what is the role of equipment manager?
I think just overseeing the day-to-day operations on the main agronomy shop and all the satellite shops as well. Just making sure everyone's on task and everything's getting serviced and repaired on a timely fashion. I think we've got 670 pieces of equipment, I think, scattered throughout the resort. If you're not maintaining the equipment to get that quality of cut, I mean, you're just not going to have that appearance out there. So I think it's pretty important. That's probably the most important thing. So this main facility here, Bandon Dunes, operates out of it, Pacific Dunes, and Common Grounds. These are mainly what goes on over here. That's the reel grinder. That's what we grind all the reels with, and then that's our bed knife grinder. So that's kind of the heart of the operation. That's, you know, when I talked about quality of cut, and that's the most important part of the job, is it stems from those. So that's where the gold's at. So across the street there is where we keep all the, you know, the Toro buggies, the Pro Gators, just your day-to-day transportation for the guys out on the course. These machines here are all ones that went out and got used today, and those are all waiting to be set up, put away for the next day. This is where we keep all the mowing equipment, all the spray rigs, and we've certainly outgrown it. It was never intended to house what it is now, but we managed to make it all work. All my life, I've always tinkered on things, you know. I've always been into, like, you know, hot rods and cars, and so I grew up kind of that way, and I just knew it was my thing. I'd much rather do this than be out there, and I'm just really fortunate. Really worked out for me. So I mean, if that's what you want to do as like a technician in the golf world, I think Bandon Dunes is the place to be. I mean, it's got a lot going on, so it's never a dull moment.
The reason people come to Bandon Dunes and then stay at Bandon Dunes, first, I think the property draws folks to it. I think then it's the quality of work-life balance, the quality of people here that make people stay.
The natural beauty is one thing, but you know, once you start working here, it's a very welcoming place. You know, you got the Kaisers take care of everyone incredibly well.
I can speak for myself. I love this area, but ownership, I'll tell you that Mike Kaiser is one of the best. You don't normally go into a job and you get your food given to you, your uniforms given to you, you know, all this stuff, and plus a decent wage.
I think you're able to be yourself, and you're able to make this place yours to a certain extent, and that gives people a lot of pride.
And I actually just started a PACE program. Actually, Bandon Dunes is the only reason why I started this PACE program. So they've given me this opportunity, and I'm taking it and I'm running with it.
Kenneth Heineman, our equipment manager, he was 19 on the golf crew. So he went from a greenkeeper at 19 to managing the equipment and shuttle service throughout one of the largest resorts in the US. So there's a progression of that internal growth here too that offers the opportunity for people to grow into their positions as they stay.
The best thing about working here for me, I do enjoy the people. People are good, but just to go out and know that you can spend your day on these golf courses and the views that you get, and to have this resort as your office, so to speak, I don't see how you could do anything better than that. You don't ever want to take that for granted.
How do you think you changed since, let's say, the first time you saw it?
This view, a lot. I mean, just in the trees alone. I mean, I knocked down a lot of trees just to open it up so you could see 4 fairway again and 3, but I mean, we're starting to lose a little bit of Bandon over there, but you really can't take any of those trees. You know, Pacific, barely see it again, yeah. But the ocean's still there. We knocked down those trees because we're losing some of that turf down there on the green a few years ago. We got some more to do over here. We're gonna open up down there so you might be able to see more of 3 green over time, you know. It's a work in progress. We don't want to like log the place so it looks like we did a whole bunch. So we want to do it over time so we get what we want, but it still doesn't look like we've been there.